Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have the guys from High Point Outfitters, Kevin Call and John Adams on the line. Guys, how you doing?
Very good, Jay. We're in good. We're excited to talk to you. Thanks for having us.
You're firing on all cylinders today?
Yeah, no, the weather's nice. It's not blowing 100 miles an hour, and we're just looking for moisture to come our way. So things are looking
good. Last time we talked, I think, was prior to the antelope and the elk application deadline, and obviously those have come and passed, and the draw has come out, and I'm sure you guys have got hunters for antelope and for elk and all of that. Before we get into the deer stuff on the Kaibab, I just kind of want to get an update from you guys on, where we're at. Last time it was, a couple months ago since I talked to you. So give us an update on current conditions out there in those units, I guess 10, 9, 8, 7, those units that you guys guide.
Jay, of course, for the listeners that don't know, we live right here in Flagstaff. Most of our guides live right here in Flagstaff as well. So, we concentrate on all the units around Flagstaff. But and we got two guys over in 1 and 27 as well. But right here around Flagstaff, we're well off of our normal moisture. We did not get the snow. We got some good rains this winter. Of course, the snowpack, sticks around a little bit longer. I just, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the grass looked great. It was greening up. It warmed up. It warmed up quicker than normal. The grass was looking great. But I noticed just this last week, things are already starting to dry out. It's unfortunate that we're kind of in that stage that we need to get some moisture here pretty quick, but the grass is still strong. If we can just get some moisture here in the next month, I think we'll be okay. But certainly, out horn hunting and stuff, I mean, there's more water in dirt tanks than I had expected. So even though we're below average, I think we're going to be okay. I just noticed it starting drying out just in the last week with the heavy winds that we've had. But what do you think, John?
John, I'm curious your thoughts as well.
There's definitely concerns. I think there's people calling, about their tags and, should I turn them back? Should I keep it? Should I turn them back? And it's just like, just hold on to them. We're not even in the time crunch yet to turn back your tag. They barely, there's bulls up to their thirds and stuff already. As far as we can see, it's not what we would want it to be, but where there's no concern. But I still think it's too early to say. I mean, you could get a downdraft next week. There's still grass out there. There's been a few fires here around Arizona earlier than normal, I would say. So you can definitely just tell by the size of the fires that's been around here that it's dry.
Dry, yeah. Kevin, going back to one thing you had said, I'm just curious about it. When you're out shed hunting and kind of during turkey season and what have you, it's still pretty cold at night. And is there any benefit? You had said that you thought it greened up a little bit early, warmed up earlier. Could that be looked at as a positive in the fact that maybe some of that green feed, instead of having still pretty dang cold overnight, into April, keeping that fresh feed from coming, is it possible that the early green up, so to speak, the early warm up, actually got them on green feed a little bit earlier than normal, or do you think it's pretty average?
No, of course, with us living right here, I've got a green field that John does as well. 2 acres out in my front yard that I kind of look at and see how the grass is doing compared to out and about. But no, it greened up quicker because it certainly warmed up quicker than normal. There's good grass on the ground. It's just starting to dry out now. And if we can just get a couple, reasonably decent wet storms here for the spring, I think we'll be fine. But it definitely greened up quicker and there was enough moisture in the ground that the green grass, took off. But it certainly got warmer quicker earlier in the middle of April, where we saw it green up about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we had frost on our windshield 2 mornings ago, and 2 weeks ago it snowed, May 1st or whatever, around that time. So it's definitely a different year than usual.
Would you say it's is this the driest you've ever seen it, or no way close to say 02, or say 95, or excuse me, 96 or 02? Is this the
definitely dry? Even out on I think it was by Cameron last week, there was 200 head of horses that ended up dying. Did you hear about that?
I didn't.
Oh yeah, there was like 200 horses that died by Cameron. They said it was because it was too dry. But yeah, you can look it up in the news or whatever. They got pictures of it and stuff. But yeah, it's dry. Don't get me wrong. It ain't like I don't know.
We've had enough moisture. It's kind of been like every 2 to 3 weeks we'll get a storm. We'll get a little storm. We'll get a little storm, and that's keeping the moisture in the ground well enough that the grass is starting to grow. So, it's been spread out, but certainly not like the years that you had mentioned, where it was just devastated from the get-go. Yeah.
Looking forward, obviously, we can't control the weather. And let's say that you're one of those guys that maybe has drawn a tag and you're looking for a trophy bull, whether you're a resident or non-resident or what have you, and you've got a lot of points. And at what point are you looking at possibly saying, okay, their antlers are they're way off? I would say that guys have well into August talking on the elk before they need to make any major decisions. What are your thoughts?
Usually the end of July, beginning of August is usually the time that we know what caliber bulls are out there. Usually we're running trail cameras, and I'm sure we'll talk about that issue later, but usually we're running trail cameras throughout that time, and we got a good grasp on, front ends and the back end, on the horns and stuff, to give a good idea of, age class and horn growth and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. What, on antelope, I'm no antelope guy at all, but I've actually heard on dry years antelope actually grow better. Is there any truth to that, or have you guys heard of that? That on drier years that antelope actually grow, they're growing horns, not antler, and it actually grows better.
Jay, we've heard kind of the same thing. We have noticed that, they feed on a different, there's not the different type of feed on a dry year versus a wet year, and I think probably that feed does make a little difference on a dry year. Body weight, I think, is affected as well. I don't know. Antelope are fun little creatures to hunt, and they mature so much quicker than an elk does, and you can see just a huge difference between a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, whereas an elk, there's just not that big of a difference. But we're going to have a good year on the antelope just because there was some good carryover from last year, I think. And I think we're going to be fine on the antelope.
Okay, good stuff. Let's dive into the deer. Obviously, we've got the deer applications and the sheep actually coming up here in the second week of June on that Tuesday. And you guys obviously do deer hunts up on the Kaibab. And I'm looking at the season structure dates right now, 12A East, October 26th through November 4th. There's the same hunt in 12A West. There's 95 tags on the east side. On the early hunt, there is 500 on the west side. And then the late hunt dates are November 23rd through December 2nd. 12A East has 30 tags, and 12A West on the late hunt, same dates, November 23rd through December 2nd, has 100 tags. And then you've got 12B. You've got the early hunt in 12B, the 26th to the November 4th. There's 25 tags. And then you've got the late hunt in 12B. There's only 20 tags, November 23rd through December 2nd. And then you've obviously got the 12B West, which is the 26th of October. Same hunt structure, November 23rd through December 2nd on the late hunt. And there's 140 on 12B West, and then 75 on 12B West late hunt. Let's talk about the Kaibab in general terms, and how do you expect this year to be up on the Kaibab? How are the carryover deer from last year? Seems like the Kaibab, from what I'm hearing, is kind of trending upward, meaning, it's definitely not trending downward. I'm just curious your thoughts on overall general thoughts of the Kaibab.
Jay, since we talked moisture, let me talk moisture first. I think Flagstaff didn't get as much snow as we typically, nor did the Kaibab, but the Kaibab got its fair share much better than what Flagstaff did. We were up there, 6 weeks ago, and there was some, decent snow still on the Kaibab. So I think the Kaibab is faring well on the moisture side. We definitely feel that the herd is on an upswing. They're keeping tags steady. They've been able to keep tags steady for the last 4 or 5 years. So tag numbers have not been fluctuated, even though the herd is doing very well. So we're seeing a lot more mature bucks the last 2 or 3 years than we did prior 2 or 3 years prior to that. So it's definitely on an upswing. What do you think, John?
Yeah, no, Kaibab was awesome last year. I say this year it's going to be just as good. Game and Fish has been doing really well hauling water out there towards the end of last year. They were hauling nonstop during the late hunt. The dirt tanks have water up there. The catchments have water. So it's doing good. But as far as age class is definitely there. From what we saw last year, there's a lot of good holdover bucks. We got a lot of trail cam pictures of, top end bucks that did not get harvested last year. So those will definitely be some bucks that we'll be trying to find again this year. So
Jay, it's kind of unusual. I've been hunting it since the 70s. That's the first time that I can ever remember the Game and Fish hauling water during the hunts. I've never seen it. So it was dry last year, almost critically dry, where the deer were starting to concentrate.
Yeah, it was bad. You could sit on a water hole and you would have deer hitting it every hour. You'd have deer hitting it. So
you could park on the water and the deer would walk right up to your truck on the water. Less. Unbelievable.
From a hunting standpoint, when it gets dry like that, it congregates those deer, does it not? And if hunters listening, if conditions remain the same, or if they see those conditions on a deer hunt and or an elk hunt, any hunt, to be honest with you, big game hunt, when it gets that dry, would you agree from a strategy standpoint, you have to kind of take a step back and say, listen, it's really dry. They don't have potholes, water anywhere. They've got to go to these tanks or they've got to go to these game and fish drinkers. I mean, you can almost base a whole hunt strategy around that, can you not?
It was, you almost feel bad, I mean, honestly. But, yeah, no, it was complete powder around every single, like, cup of water. I mean, if there was a little bit of water, it was completely powder just from all the deer tracks around the tank.
As far as a rut, take that a step further, as far as rutting deer and having a good rut, obviously if the animal's body condition is good, would you agree that if you get those congregation areas and you get those deer hammering water, those deer are around each other a lot more, there's a lot more interaction, in my opinion, it creates more of an intense rut at times where, and maybe it's not the actual breeding, but because those deer are jammed into general areas that are, more concentrated, it seems this, when you're observing, and I'm open for your opinion, it seems as though you have a better rut because you're actually seeing more deer congregated together, bucks are checking does and what have you. Is that what you saw last year?
Yeah, I would say so. There was definitely, the herd bucks that were staying with the does and stuff, and whenever they would come into water, they would try to, keep their same group of ladies as they left. But I'm not, 80 years old or whatever, been around that long, but I've never seen it like that. It was bad. I mean, you wouldn't even dare knee down, take a knee around one of those water holes because of the ticks. I mean, the deer were just pounding those water holes. I mean, it was bad. So, I hope it's not like that again this year, but, Game and Fish did do a really good job getting water to where they needed to. So, what are your thoughts?
I think certainly they were more highly concentrated. Of course, as you know, Jay, on those late hunts, it's common for them to, pile up into some areas. But last year they were just, they weren't venturing far, a mile, maybe mile and a half away from the water. So the water sources, they were getting pounded last year for sure.
Guys, when you look at you break down the hunt, you've got those early hunts and you've got the late hunts. I'm looking, obviously Go Hunt Insider is a sponsor of this podcast, and I'm looking at the draw odds. And when I specifically look at the early hunts, you've got, let's see, on the 12A West, the early hunt starting October 26th, a non-resident with 10 points is a guarantee, and then you take that 12A East, and it bumps up to 13 points to be guaranteed to draw that unit. My question would be specifically between 12A East early and 12A West early. The way, if you look at the odds, it's harder to draw the 12A East tag, but I'm not so sure that it's a 3-point difference. And I'm curious you guys' thoughts on if you agree with the statistics and think that 12A East is a better early hunt, or if you like the 12A West early hunt comparatively.
It's kind of a phenomenon that we've noticed. It's that east side tag's harder to get. It's the only reason it's harder to get is because of the 95 tags versus the 500 tags. We prefer to hunt the west side on the early and late hunt. If you just go back about 5 years ago, when the warm fire that mostly burned on the east side, burned a little bit on the west side, but up on top, but mostly on the east side, we preferred the east side, but that warm fire has matured enough that really the west side is a much better hunt. So we prefer the west side. We hunt both sides. Last year we had hunters on the east early and west early, so we'll hunt both sides. But in our opinion, there's no reason because of the draw odd difference to chase that early east side tag. There's just really no benefit to that east side, even though it's hard to draw. So. And again, the only reason it's harder to draw is because of the less tags. So we chase that early west side tag. We would hunt both of the tags, but the west side is better. And one of the reasons why it is better, Jay, is because no matter what the weather is, whether it's hot, of course it's end of October. Sometimes we have snow for that hunt. Sometimes it's cold, but most of the time it's hot. We can find good mature bucks on that west side. No matter what the weather pattern is, the east side can be a little more fickle and a little harder to locate and relocate those good bucks, because a lot of those good bucks on the early hunt live on the west side because there's so much more water on the west side. They don't move to the east side until the middle of the hunt. It's really hard to keep a client happy for 3 or 4 days just saying, be patient, the bucks will show up. And sometimes that's a difficult proposition for a hunter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been to the Kaibab a few times, but I'm certainly no expert on the Kaibab. But in general, guys, doesn't the west side have quite a bit more transition zone, meaning depending on where they're at within that transition, you can kind of find them, whereas on the east side, you kind of go from the top, and it's pretty thick, and you basically drop straight off. There's not that great, good glassing transition area where you can catch those deer.
The west side has 3 tiers. Well, we consider it 3 tiers, but it's big country. To think that you're just going to go up and figure out the Kaibab in a couple weekends ain't going to happen. So
yeah,
Jay, from the high, of course, the Highway 67 is the east-west border. So from the pavement up on top down to the winter range on the west side, probably 25 miles to the sagebrush. Yet on the east side, it's only a 4 or 5 mile transition. You're in the sagebrush. So you're exactly right. You've got a 4 or 5 mile transition zone versus a 20 mile transition zone on the west. So there's a lot more deer on the west side. I think 75-80% of the deer herd is on the west side. 20 to 25% on the east side. So there's a lot more deer. Of course, that's the reason why there's more tags. A guy that wants to be by himself wants to and is going to hunt that early hunt because he's given up on getting the late hunt. If he wants to hunt by himself, that east side is a good option because you can get by yourself with 95 tags. You can find places in the transition zone where there's not a lot of hunters. On the west side, you're competing with 500 people. It's a bigger area, but those deer are moving through similar areas, and so we do have a little bit of hunter concentration on the early west hunt.
Yeah, the best buck that came off the Kaibab last year was on the east side, 240 bucks.
I was just going to ask you guys that as far as those 1 or 2, 1, 2, 3, top bucks on each side. Would you say that the top 2 bucks on the east side and the top 2 bucks on the west side are virtually the same? As far as the upper end top couple of bucks, there's probably no difference, is there?
Last year there was, just because there was that 240 buck killed on the east side, but besides that, no. I mean, upper end bucks on the Kaibab, usually you're trying to kill a 205, 215 type buck is a upper end type buck on the Kaibab. I mean, there are, definitely better bucks, but as far as them getting killed every year, usually if you kill a 200 plus inch buck, usually there's 3. I think there was probably about 3 200-inch plus bucks killed off the west side and probably 3 off the east side last year. So if that gives you a ballpark. there's a lot of 180 type bucks. I wouldn't say a ton, but there's definitely a lot of 180 type bucks, and then there's a bunch of 160 to 140 type bucks. And then we're trying to, like, on the early hunts, we're trying to target 180 plus type bucks is what we are trying to get on the ground, and on the late hunts, we're trying to get those 200 plus inch bucks on the ground. So
that makes sense. When you look at, let's bounce back real fast. When you look back on the archery hunt up on the Kaibab, on that hunt you can hunt 12A East, 12A West, and 12B. In other words, you can hunt all 3 units, and it looks like as a non-resident with 6 points, it's 100% guarantee. And that's August 24th to September 13th. Now, I know you guys are at that time focused on your antelope hunts and really getting geared up for your elk. And I'm not even sure if you guide it, but my question would be, what kind of hunt, in your opinion, is that Kaibab archery hunt?
If you want to look at bucks all day long, that is a phenomenal hunt. There's a lot of deer, a lot of bucks. We do guide the archery hunt. We like to hunt the archery hunt because what that does is those bucks remain in the same spot during the archery hunt and the early rifle hunt. So that gets us geared up for our early rifle hunt as well as hunting the archery hunt. So the good thing about the archery hunt is you can scout all summer long. Those bucks don't move. They stay for the first at least 2 or 3 days of the early rifle hunt. So you can effectively scout the Kaibab on that, on the upper end of the Kaibab and archery hunt it, and the first few days on the early rifle hunt. It's great fun, beautiful area, up in the aspens, up in the fir trees. I mean, it's, you're 8,000 plus feet. It's phenomenal country, a lot of fun and a lot of deer, a lot of opportunities for 160 plus bucks. And you will definitely see, 180, 190 bucks. As you know, that's probably the hardest animal to kill with a bow, in my opinion, is mule deer. But just looking at them, just watching them, fun stuff. I mean, great hunt, fun hunt.
No offense to you goose hunters out there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. I got a bone to pick with you. John. But guys, the muzzleloader deer hunt, I need to add that the 12A East, there's 50 tags November 9th through November 15th, and then November 9th through the 15th, the 12B West muzzleloader deer hunts. Now, I have not been on that hunt, but from an outsider looking into that hunt, it's after the early hunt, it's before the late hunt. I got to think that that's a pretty tough hunt because those deer are probably mixed, heading in transition area, and they're kind of all over the place. What is your general feelings of that muzzleloader deer hunt on 12A East and 12B West?
Yeah, Jay, I think you're right. I mean, it is it's a tough tag to draw because of the lack of tags, and it can be plus or it just depends on the weather. I mean, that hunt's a little bit more weather dependent, whether they've moved off the top or not. I don't know. It's a hunt that we do with mixed results, I guess. It's a little difficult to really assure somebody because you're right. On the early hunt, we can scout all summer. We know what bucks we want to kill. On the late hunt, they're certainly more glassable. They're in the rut. They've moved off the top. We can locate good bucks on the late hunt, but that muzzleloader hunt is just kind of an in-betweener. You can't scout for it. They've moved, and
not to mention, Kevin. I mean, they've been really chased around on not only the archery hunt and that early hunt. They've been pushed around. So I mean, I know every year there's a decent buck shot, but I would think from a patterning standpoint that muzzleloader hunt would be tough. It kind of surprises me that that it takes as many points as it does. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. let's jump over to the late hunts. You talk about 12A West, 12A East, and then we'll talk about 12B in a minute. But you've already said that you prefer that 12A West late hunt, but you guys also hunt the 12A East late hunt. Describe a little bit of the difference between the two. From a deer movement standpoint, from a standpoint of seeing people. Is there one that the west hunt you see tons of people, the east hunt there's only 30 tags on the east side and 100 on the west side, but like you said, there's way more country on the west side. I'm curious, how do people spread out on those late hunts between the east side and the west side?
Yeah, both of those hunts are phenomenal hunts. They don't really, other than last year, because the deer were so concentrated around water, that we have a little bit of interaction with other hunters. But typically, that's not a problem. And on either side, the difference between the west and the east, I guess the reason why we prefer the west over the east is go back to weather. No matter what the weather's like, we're able to find good quality bucks on the west side. On the east side, if you don't have good snow, good moisture, good cold weather, a lot of those good bucks do not move into the wilderness area. They stay up in the park, and they're not available to hunt. And how disappointing is that after waiting 20 years to get that east side late tag? And the majority of the good bucks are, still sitting in the park and not huntable. So on the west side, we just don't have that problem because there's so much more country on the west side. But on that east side, a lot of times that Saddle Mountain wilderness, those bucks don't move off. They stay in the park. And so, hey, either one of those hunts are dynamite hunts, and you put weather on top of that rut, both of them can be phenomenal hunts, but there's just a little bit more risk drawing that east side tag.
All right, let's talk a little bit about 12B, and then talk about the dynamic of 12B and then 12B West, and how if you have 12B, you can hunt. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can hunt both. If you have a 12B West, you have to stick on the west side. Break down 12B for the listeners and talk a little bit about it from head to toe, if you will.
Yeah, it's on the early hunt last year. They did a phenomenal job killing some giant bucks on the early 12B hunts. They actually killed better bucks on the early hunt than they did on the late hunt. So those deer, we have trail cam pictures from deer on the 12A West side, and they migrate all the way down to the 12B side, which is kind of crazy to think about them going across the canyon. But it's definitely a very good tag. There's honestly really no difference between a 12B late tag and a 12A West late tag. I would take either tag. You can kill phenomenal bucks on either one of them. The 12B early tag can be challenging sometimes. Last year it definitely wasn't. All the deer pushed off into there, and like I said, they killed some phenomenal bucks on the early hunt. But yeah, I mean, what do you got?
Yeah, I think to me there's no we prefer the 12B West because the number of tags easier to draw. That 12B tag, of course, gives you the ability to hunt the vermilions and on that side, but with the amount of depredation that's occurred, the lack of water over there, there's not really a reason to try to chase that tag, in our opinion. So we typically have our folks do the 12B West. Because that's typically where we're hunting anyway.
Yeah, there's just no remote places to get it. You can go 20-minute drive and be on the one end. Even just talking to Maverick. Maverick from Bull Basin up here. You met him?
I don't know.
But I was talking to him just last night about it. His father-in-law had the tag last year, and he said he was pretty discouraged just because he felt like he couldn't get away. Like there's, the pavement, you can drive 20 minutes off the pavement and you're to the edge of the unit, so it's kind of hard to get away from that. But yeah, if you have the whole 12B, yeah, you can go hunt the sands and stuff like that, and you can definitely get away from people there. There's just very few deer there, but whenever you see one, it's usually something pretty decent. So,
guys, I want to take just a second here to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com Insider, and we talked about some of the different point levels, and I was using the chart here on GoHunt Insider to tell me that. And it's the best Western hunting resource there is when you're evaluating states and draw odds and statistics and harvest data and such. Use the J. Scott promo code and you're going to get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card, and you can automatically spend that $50. And some guys are buying Yeti Ramblers and putting it towards purchases of other things in the gear shop, and I highly encourage people to check them out. I thank them for their sponsorship. Also, KUIU.com, that's KUIU.com. They make the best, in my opinion, ultralight hunting gear available on the market. I've been wearing it since late 2010 and just really like that gear. Phonescope.com, use the JScott16 promo code. You're going to get an automatic 10% discount if you use the JScott16 promo code. And then the Outdoorsman's, the Optics Authority, use the JScott promo code and you're going to get a 10% discount there. Guys, I know that you're probably aware of the trail camera potential ban, potential change in ruling. I was in Mexico for about a month, but from what I understand, they had it on their plate. The commission had it on their plate at the last commission meeting, and I've heard that they've pushed it off to the next meeting. Just curious from you guys' perspective, either A, what you've heard, or B, your thoughts on the potential ban, and maybe C, your thoughts on maybe what you guys would like to see. Curious your thoughts.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talk going around. There's people that like trail cameras just to go out and have something to do in the summertime and go check trail cameras. We definitely enjoy it. I could honestly go either way with this. There's just there's some people that don't abide by the rules. So I think putting rules on something that there's no game and fish officer to even enforce it. There's not enough manpower to enforce the rule. Kind of gives me a sour taste in my mouth because I would have to abide by the rule, or I'm going to abide by the rule. But knowing that there's other people that are not going to do the quarter-mile thing away from a water hole, I also think that they should probably either just leave it as is, don't deal with the trail camera thing if you can't enforce it, or get rid of them completely. And I would be completely fine either way. I think they maybe should mirror kind of like the no-fly thing 48 hours before any hunt starts in the unit. Just pull every single trail camera out of the unit and get rid of them completely. But putting them, what they're trying to do right now, for people that don't know, is they're trying to make them a quarter mile away from any water hole, which that's going to be pretty hard for somebody that pretty soon wants to just be 100 yards off a water hole and feel that nobody's even going to see their trail camera, and then the guy that has a spring, or there might be a water catchment in a rock that nobody's going to ever see or know about, he's going to put it right on the water hole. It's just it's something that I don't feel like they're ever going to get a grasp on. and there's too many people that enjoy trail cameras that don't necessarily even hunt. They just like being out there and seeing wildlife. There's some people that have definitely abused it completely, putting 4 or 5 trail cameras at one water hole to get every angle. It looks like you're going into a disco club whenever you go check out the water hole. I'm torn either way, but I do have a lot of insight on this whole entire thing. I know that there's commissioner tag holders that bought tags, like, a couple $100,000 in these statewide tags, and they bought them under these set of rules, and now they're going to change them before their hunt even starts, and that's definitely unfair. If I was to spend a couple $100,000 on a tag, and then they change the rules before my hunt even starts, that doesn't fit well with me either. I do know that they're scared about losing out on some money from these statewide tag holders for the following year.
Well, really, John, doesn't that that affects you and me and affects every sportsman, and that's a whole nother discussion, but the reality is if less money comes in on those tags, it affects all of us, because that's less money on the ground that gets put right back into water catchments and transplants and surveys and all kinds of stuff. Doesn't that affect us all?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. I think they took it off their plate because there was some other verbiage in there that they wanted to look at before they went through this whole entire thing. There was like hunting a quarter mile away from a house. Well, that would landlock square mile sections. There's more things to just the trail camera why they push it off the plate. So they want to go over some more things, but it definitely affects the animals. It definitely affects statewide tag holders that are bringing the money in. It affects outfitters that are doing statewide tags. It affects everybody, honestly. It affects my dad who goes and puts one camera out behind his house. You know what I mean? It affects everybody. So,
one thing.
Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jay, it's my understanding last week the commissioners voted on it, and it was 2-2. Luckily, there wasn't a 5th commissioner, because who knows how it would have gone down, so they pushed it off another month. But I don't know how they're ever going to police the rule says, does it assist in taking wildlife? Well, when somebody's hanging a camera and doesn't even have a tag in the unit, is that assisting them taking wildlife next year, the year after, or I don't know how they police that idea. And people that are just out, joyriding with cameras, apparently they can do what they want to do. So I don't know. To me, they either need to take them off or leave it on. Of course, most of Unit 10, for example, the private property and what have you, there's a lot of, you can't, probably 3/4 of Unit 10, you can't hang a camera up. We were a little, disgusted about that, 4 or 5 years ago when it went into effect, but it really hasn't affected us at all. As long as there's a level playing field where either the cameras are on or the cameras are off, not some, definition of what is, what's assisting to help take wildlife.
Someone's interpretation. When you have that interpretation factor in there, you're saying that can create a problem because everybody's interpretation is different.
And the law.
My thing is, I have my first trail cameras. I used them in Mexico on private land. I don't use trail cameras on public land in Arizona. I've seen the problems that they create, but I am of the opinion that, man, let's stop trying to, govern every single thing we do. I wish sportsmen could come together and be sportsmen and, figure out our own plan. But with that being said, I hate seeing the guy that's in some random unit that's like you were saying, John, monitoring some, little spring that's not bothering anybody. No one else is hiking up there. It's, and he's getting great photos of bears and turkey and, lions and deer and elk and whatever. And, he's got a little tree stand hung. It's different than up on, 9 or 10 or up on the strip or on the Kaibab where, you've got 15 hanging at a trick tank. But I think the easy solution is just to figure out like a no-fly, like 48 hours before or 7 days before, or just do a time frame and say, these are the dates the cameras can run and these are the dates that aren't. And you say, well, you've got auction tag 365 holders. Well, there is some time when the cameras can't run, and there's some times when the cameras can, and it's simple. If a Game and Fish or a Forest Service finds a camera in the no time zone, no fly zone, so to speak, just pull the camera, and that camera gets, property of the state, and it gets auctioned off, and, let them govern like that. Or if sportsmen find a camera, feel free to pull it. It's, you can pull any camera you find during these dates, you turn them in, and that seems pretty simple to me. Then you don't have the conflicts around the water holes during the hunts and all of that, but then you still have your guys in the summer or after the season, that want to enjoy, taking inventory and what. It just seems like a good compromise to me. But obviously they're not asking me my opinion, but that is kind of my opinion. I hate to see any of our quote-unquote privileges or rights going away. And, I believe trail camera is probably a privilege. I don't think it's a right at all. But it's something that a lot of people enjoy. So I hate to see it just completely go away. But that's my opinion.
So say Game and Fish goes up to a tank. They see a trail camera there. They take the trail camera.
Oh, it's not even a hunter. It's a bird watcher's camera or something. I mean, I get that too. It's like, how do you govern that?
Not only that, I mean, who gets in trouble for that camera? I mean,
well, I don't know that anybody does. I almost
think
if they find them,
no attachment registration. So the guy, all he did was he tried to push the rule and tried to get pictures.
So what you're saying is, you're saying a guy says, well, I'm going to run the camera, and if they find it and if they confiscate it, fine, but maybe I'll get away with it, and maybe I can, pull a card before it gets, or maybe they never find it, and I've run the camera the whole season. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that guy, the only reason why we run cameras is just so there's not another outfitter doing something we're not doing. So we can offer our clients the same exact service, if not better, than any other outfitter out there. But whenever, somebody else is doing something and they don't care about their reputation, they don't get in trouble. So
that's a good point.
Where I would say they either ban them completely or they leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I was faced with that decision, even though I'm not a huge fan of trail cameras, I'd probably say just leave them alone. That's my kind of opinion today. It might change tomorrow, but anyway, it's definitely a controversial topic. I wish we could figure something out that works for everybody, but you know how it is. It's never going to work for everybody, no matter what you do.
I wish they would go away. I don't like getting my camera stolen. And then I don't like paying for cameras. I don't like buying batteries. I don't like losing SD cards. I don't like keeping track of 100 SD cards. And then, like I said, like the last time I was on your podcast, just talking about my bull, how nobody had trail cam pictures because we killed him in a spot there was no trail cameras allowed. So that's kind of the fun part of going out without trail cameras is you don't know what's out there. So that's what I mean, like. Certainly for me over the years, the fun of it for me has been not knowing what's there and, trying to take inventory and such. And it seems as though, hunting is, it's kind of morphed and gotten so competitive, and everybody, like you said, you were talking about outfitters, they have to run cameras in order to stay competitive.
It's kind of unfortunate it's come to that, but it's kind of what we're in now. The idea of just going out and seeing what you can glass up and seeing what you can find is kind of gone. So who knows what the answer is, guys? Any final thoughts either on the Kaibab or any other matter for that matter? I'll give you guys each a chance to have some concluding thoughts, and then we'll wrap up here.
Yeah, no, Jay, overall, we're excited about the Kaibab, the progress of the Kaibab. I think the deer are doing great up there. We enjoy being up there every year. It's just a fantastic place to be. And other than Flagstaff, hey, you just will be on the Kaibab. It's just a fun place to enjoy some time here in Arizona. So if anybody gets a tag, give us a holler. I guess my one point is, if you don't want to wait 20 years for a tag, seriously consider the early rifle hunt on the Kaibab or the archery hunt. It's worth hunting. We killed 190 1-inch buck last year on the early hunt. Those early hunts can be good, and you can hunt it twice versus once on the late hunt. And I burned my points last year for the early tag. I didn't want to wait any longer, and knew I could draw the early tag. And the early hunt's a good hunt, but certainly it's hard to beat that late rut hunt. But if my 2 cents, take a look at that early hunt and seriously consider it if you're ready to come to Arizona and hunt.
Yeah,
sounds good, John.
Appreciate you having us on again. No. I think I said what I was going to say, so
okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, good. You guys, please let listeners know. I'll also link it up in the show notes, but let them know how they can get a hold of you, how they can follow you, etc.
Yeah, highpointoutfitters.net is the best place to catch us. That's our website, of course. Our Facebook and all that's on there as well. My Instagram is Love to Hunt with no vowels, so it's LVTHNT is my handle. I'm kind of getting to a point that I'm almost over posting on Instagram. It takes so much time and what have you, but on occasion I throw posts out there. John's much more into the Instagram thing. So give him your stuff.
Yeah. You can get a hold of us on the website and call us off the website, or email us off the website. And then Instagram handle is AZ_hunter. And that's about it. You can watch some of our YouTube videos. We haven't loaded any new YouTube videos for a few years. Been slacking on that. But besides that, everything's been good. So.
Jay, you're doing a good job on your podcast. I enjoy your podcast and always, pick up. Man, you're getting up in the 300s or 400s. I don't know where you're at, but man, I certainly pick off the ones I enjoy listening to. And this conserve and protect Arizona thing has kind of caught my interest, and appreciate throwing information out there like that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I've been in Mexico, so I don't really know what's happened since I left. I need to follow up and see where they're at on that. But it's definitely an issue that's concerning, and definitely an issue that, some of the most valued and trusted people that I know in the, sportsman industry with the different wildlife groups are saying that there's definitely a need. And so, the biggest thing is figuring out as a collective group how to meet that need and how to, educate the public and to fight some of these anti-hunting groups. So I don't know exactly what the answer is, but it's definitely something we need to be talking about. And John, I'm still going to work on converting you over to being a Coues deer nut. And there is still time. You're still young, so there's still time for me to continue to chisel away and work with you on that. And hopefully one day you will wake up and see the light. And, you can deny it now and all of that, but one day you will wake up and you will realize how you've been wandering in your path, and you will figure out that Coues deer are king. And once you do, then you'll be calling me, begging for forgiveness and saying, why was I so hard on you? And but I'll stay with you, and I'll keep praying for you, okay? And praying for that conversion from a mule deer hunter to a Coues deer hunter.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do have deep down inside of me, I would like to go on a Mexico Coues deer hunt. I just can't.
Okay, well that's a start. That's one start.
I would never blow my points Coues deer here in Arizona. Let's just say that.
Once you venture down that path, so what I'm saying is there is a glimmer of hope. If you've got Mexico Coues deer on your radar, then I'm smiling, and there is a glimmer of hope for you.
That's awesome.
Hey guys, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. And I'll be posting this up, and hope you guys have a great summer, and look forward to talking to you again maybe after elk season, and we'll do a recap, okay?
Awesome. Thanks for having us on again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.